Good morning, Dual Coast fans. Hope everybody's having a good morning out there. We are joined by a very special guest this morning, Miss Amberly Lago. Amberly, thank you so much for being with us. I have my co-host on the West Coast, Amberly in the middle of the country, and me on the East Coast this morning. So we're well spread out.
We are covering it.
We are representing all time zones.
That's right. That's
So
right.
great to have you.
Thank you for having me. It's good to see you again.
Likewise. Yeah, I'm going to see you and your broken toe in a couple of weeks in San Francisco.
There you
Oh,
go.
that's right. Well, my toe better be healed up by then. It's not going to be fun traveling. I've traveled with crutches and suitcases before, and it's really not fun. So I am just knowing that by then I will be off crutches.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
There you
So just mentioned you broke your toe. We'll get into you, but how did you break your toe?
It's pathetic. You really want to know?
I want to know.
I was trying to blow dry my hair, and I guess I was really into it and accidentally hit the counter with my foot. I don't know. I just don't know. So I guess I should not attempt to do my own hair. Look, as you can see, it did not turn out well. But that's how. I wish I had a better story, but that's it.
Yeah, we need to work on the buildup of that one.
Yeah, and a broken toe compared to a crushed leg, it's like it's no big thing. Seriously.
Oh my goodness, that is so funny. Well, you and I, we met back in November in Minnesota and at Jared's event. It was such an amazing time, and I was intentional about, and I said in a podcast a few times ago that I was intentional about going there because I wanted to support Jared, obviously, but I was very intentional because I wanted to meet you. And it was an amazing time of just having some good dialogue. But I'll tell a funny story is that the morning after the event, I'm sitting in the hotel lobby in the breakfast area with Dan Sikowski. So we're sitting there eating, and in walks a woman behind Dan, but is in the lobby at the front desk. And I go, "Oh, there's Amberly." And he turns around and he looks over there and he goes, I don't think that's Amberly. And I go, "It looks just like her." And so then the lady started walking to us, and I was like, "Nope, that's not Amberly." But I was like, that woman looks so much like Amberly. It is incredible. And then 2 minutes later, in walks Amberly, and the other lady had already exited. And so we told Amberly, like, "We just met this woman that's like, it could be your twin." So then the woman walks back in, and here they both are. I was like, this is crazy. So you do have a twin out there somewhere that was traveling through Minnesota.
Minnesota area.
And without a broken toe, probably.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm so grateful to have you on Dual Coast. So grateful to have you. We're so honored and so blessed because you have such depth and richness about you, Amberly. And I was just, I sat in the front row of that event, of Jared's event, and just absorbing, everything that you said. And I want to say that not only is what you say very heartfelt, but you really capture the room. You really capture the entire room. And that is something not everybody does from the stage. And so I just want to compliment you on that because you're an amazing speaker. Your story is unbelievable. We're going to find out, but there's a couple of things that I want to say about you. When I think of two words, I think of perseverance and I think of being resilient because your story really combines both of those. And there's many other words that we can describe you as, but those are two that come to mind hearing the story of Amberly Lago. So thank you again for coming on. Author, podcaster, speaker, mother, dog lover, and soon we'll get the dog on stage. But tell us just a little bit about your back history before you really got into speaking, writing. Tell us, what was going on in your life in the early days.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for your kind words because sometimes I speak from stage and I have a plan of what I'm going to say. And I get up there and I always pray, "God, please speak through me." But then I get off and I'm like, "Oh, what did I say?" Or, "Oh, I forgot to say this." And I'm preparing for some keynotes coming up. So your encouragement really means a lot because I still get nervous. And then I remember, you know what? It's not about me. It's about the people I serve. And so my intention today is to really serve everyone who's listening today, because I know you could be anywhere and listening to anything. So I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you having me on the show. And yeah, I think I connected with you so deeply because of your background and what you do with health and wellness. I was I was a professional dancer for years, and then transitioned into the fitness industry, where I was in the fitness industry for 26 years, and it was my love. It was my life. I was doing infomercials and fitness videos. One of the infomercials, I worked with Body by Jake. I'm really aging myself right now to if you remember Body by Jake. He's awesome, by the way. But I was regularly contributing to magazines like Shape, Fit Pregnancy, and Health, doing articles, and sponsored by Nike. And so fitness was my life. Loved it. I even had a business where I taught trainers I prepared them to get certified as trainers. And then I kind of handpicked the trainers that were awesome and then brought them on board for my business. And so I had a whole company where we did in-home training, training out of the gym, and loved it. And so everything changed in the blink of an eye. And that's when, sometimes everything's going right. And then instantly something happens. And I was in such denial. And I'll just tell you a little bit about, what happened. I was coming home from my work, or, I just finished training clients, coming home from work on my motorcycle, cruising down Ventura Boulevard, which both of you may know Ventura Boulevard in LA. And in the blink of an eye, it changed when I was hit by an SUV. I was T-boned, thrown 30 feet. And I remember, just sliding across the asphalt. And when I finally came to a stop, I looked down at my leg. And when I said a broken toe was nothing compared to a crushed leg, my leg was completely broken into pieces. I didn't know it at the time, but my femoral artery was severed, and there was blood everywhere. And in that moment, one of the first things that I thought was, oh, this can't be good. I might have to train clients on crutches for a while. I had no idea really how serious it was. And my business was just as important as like my leg. I was thinking, how am I going to keep my business going? I need to keep a roof over our head. So that was one of the first things that I thought. And so I was rushed to the hospital, and it was chaotic, put in induced coma. And when I woke up from a coma, I learned I had a 1% chance of saving my leg.
Hmm.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
had to be pretty traumatic to wake up to.
well, and when I found out that I had a 1% chance, my first thought was, okay, so you're saying there's a chance. I have a chance of
Yeah.
saving it. And we found a doctor, Dr. Wiss, at a different hospital. And that really took an act of God just to get me transferred to a different hospital, because they didn't want to have the other hospital didn't want to be liable for me being transferred and if I died on the way. And so it took about 5 days for me to get transferred. And I remember being transferred, and once I got out of the coma, I got the tubes out and everything so I could finally talk. Just grabbing my phone, and I was making phone calls to clients. And I remember thinking, they seem a little confused. But in reality, it was me. I had no idea that, like, being in a coma felt like I was out for just a minute and then I was awake again. I didn't know that I was in a coma for a little over a week. And I was making these calls to clients saying, hey, I might be in ICU right now, but I'm going to get out of here in third quarter. We are going to finish strong. And they were kind of confused on the other line. And my husband was like, give me the phone. But saving my legs, saving my business is just as important as saving a actual limb on my body, which seems crazy. But at the time, I was just like, I got to keep my business running. I'm saving my leg. I'm going to get out of here. We're going to finish strong. Little did I know that it was going to take 34 surgeries, months in the hospital, and thousands of hours of excruciating physical therapy. And I would be out of work, lose my business, have I had $2.9 million worth of medical expenses. And we had a lien on our house, and I had lost really everything except for hope, that I would eventually walk again when I was told I'd never walk again. And let me tell you, it took a lot of grit, and by the grace of God, they did save my leg. But it has been a journey, and I think the real journey began when I was diagnosed with CRPS as a result of this accident. And so when I shared, I just broke my toe, a broken toe is not much in the grand scheme of things, but a broken toe on a leg that has been diagnosed with CRPS is magnified. CRPS is a nerve disorder which leaves you in constant chronic pain. So to this day, the accident was 15 years ago, and to this day, I'm still in pain every day. And a lot of people that have been diagnosed with CRPS, they are in a wheelchair. I feel grateful that I can walk. I feel grateful that I can use my crutches right now, because there are a lot of people with this condition that can't fly, that can't work out, And so I have been determined to walk again, to work out, to work again. And that pain has been my biggest teacher. And I feel like pain really pushes you until your purpose pulls you. And I, in my mind, want to do so much. And sometimes things like a broken toe slow me down. And so I've learned a lot of lessons along the way. And I think that, my heart goes out to people with this nerve condition. I've had every kind of treatment, from Eastern, Western medicine. At one time, I was on 11 different medications, and so many homeopathic pills every day. I think I counted 73 homeopathic pills every single day. I've had spinal blocks, spinal stimulator, 2 spinal stimulators, which is crazy, crazy. They implant nerve metal leads into your back, and you have a machine that sends electrical current down your leg. I've had ketamine infusions. I've flown out of the country for radical treatments, and nothing has seemed to work. And the only thing that seems to work for me, it's not a one pill, it's not a one-time thing. It is truly a mental, physical, spiritual way of life that I've adapted. And it's so much of it starts with your mindset. And so much of it started with me getting on my knees and praying and asking God to lead the way every single day. And so much of it is still moving your body, because your movement moves your mood. And we were talking before we started recording that, well, I was still at the gym. I was at the gym with my crutches, doing what I could. And I found yesterday I could still do leg extension and leg curls. Can't do the leg press, but I could get on the bike at a lower resistance and do that with a broken toe. And it's so much of starting where you are, using what you have, and just doing what you can, and not giving up. It's keep going. I have to, it's funny when I talked to my mom yesterday, and I was like, well, I'm getting this award and I'm going to have to go on stage probably with crutches. And, this is really slowing me down, but it's not stopping me. And my mom said, well, maybe this is God's way of slowing you down a little bit. And I said, well, you know what? Maybe a love note would be, a little better next time. And she said, well, God knows if he sent you a love note, you probably wouldn't read it. And I'm like, okay. Thank you. So now I'm open to receiving messages and getting out of my own way. And so, it's a practice every single day, and I'm stubborn, and I have to learn sometimes to get out of my own way, and that I am not in the driver's seat. And so I hope that what I share today reminds anyone listening to, like, man, it takes humility, it takes some resilience and grit, but it also takes, getting out of your own way and fully relying on God.
Wow. Woo. There was a lot of A lot of substance right there in everything you said. Now, you know, from your stage, when I was listening to you, that was not the only time that you got hit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's embarrassing to say I've actually been hit by a car 3 times, but who's counting? And maybe my
That's
next book
incredible.
should be called Look Both Ways. But yeah, it's actually one of the reasons we decided to move from California to Texas. Well, actually, my dad said, Amberly, you got to get out of there. Like, it's going to kill you living there. The last time I was hit by a car, it was actually with my daughter. We were on our razors, the little scooters, and it was during COVID. And we got out every day and rode our scooters just to get out because everything was just so locked down. I mean, everything was shut down. You couldn't go anywhere without a mask. You even had to show your card of vaccination to get in a restaurant or stores. It was crazy. And so my daughter and I would go out on our scooters and ride every day. And we were riding and going through a crosswalk, and a car came, and I guess they couldn't see us going through the crosswalk because of the sun, and we were hit. And there's nothing scarier than being hit by an SUV when you're by yourself, but hitting by a car when you have your child with you is probably the scariest thing I've ever gone through, looking back and not knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And luckily, we were both thrown and not rolled over, taken to the ER. And it was so crowded at the time with so many people sick with COVID that they let us share a bed. And after only 4.5, 5 hours in the hospital, they did the brain scan to make sure she didn't have any bleeding in her brain, because I don't remember if she had her helmet on. I know I didn't have a helmet on.
No.
I don't remember, to be honest with you. But luckily she was okay. We were pretty banged up. My thumb was dislocated. I guess the capsule in your thumb burst, and I didn't realize you needed to use your thumb so much until you can't use your thumb. And so for months that was a thing. But we kind of, hobbled out of there. My daughter, looked at me and she said, Mama, we were rolled in here, on a stretcher, and we're walking out of here like rock stars. And it dawned on me in that moment, like, she was so grateful. And so the gratitude practice that I had done night after night, that I thought maybe she wasn't listening, I realized it was like, your kids watch everything that you do. They see the practices you have. And she had this practice of, she was not going to be a victim. She realized she was the victor, and she was walking out of that hospital. So it was really a beautiful thing to see.
Wow. Crazy. Amberly, after the accident and dealing with the complex regional pain syndrome, I don't know if is it on a daily basis? There are certain practices that you probably practice on a daily basis. And the mindset comes into play here, like we were talking about before. What would you say to other people who are kind of feel trapped inside their own pain? So a lot of people you see maybe on the outside, they look fine, but they're suffering internally. What would you say to someone who's listening right now who feels trapped inside their own pain on a daily basis, maybe dealing with similar things that you have or other symptomatology?
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, a lot of people and I pray, can't relate to pain from CRPS. But pain is pain, and whether that's pain from past trauma, pain in our, finances right now, pain that the business is suffering, or you have a loss, or you have a physical ailment. Pain is pain, and pain demands to be heard. And what I encourage you to do, and what really actually saved me, was I tried to stuff it down for so long. I tried to deny it. I tried to pretend it wasn't there. I didn't want to accept this nerve disease. I was like, this cannot be my life. And this, I didn't show my scars. I tried to cover everything up. And man, if you don't, you stuff it down, it does come out in everything that you do. It will come out in the way that you lead, the way that you love, the way that you parent, your relationships. And so the thing that really, truly helped me and saved me was admitting to myself, like,
Yeah.
I can't do this anymore. And I didn't want to do it anymore alone. I didn't want people to feel sorry for me. And I will tell you, this isn't something that I've mastered. And I still have to practice this because um, last night I'm sitting on the couch with my foot propped up because it's so swollen and throbbing. And my husband, who says he weighs 250, he might weigh more. He's a big guy. He comes over and he plops himself on the couch without looking and sits on my foot. And I let out, I don't cuss much anyway. I let out a cuss word, which the I saw stars, and I immediately like hobble into my office to cry because I still in that moment was like, I don't want you to be around me. I don't want you to see my pain. I don't want you to see me crying. I hate the situation I'm in. So I still have moments where I'm like, that old thought process of suck it up, get her done, grit it out. But let me tell you, what I've learned is grit without connection is resistance, and grit with connection is where you truly find resilience. And so I have had to learn to ask for help, to learn to let people in. And if you're struggling right now with any kind of pain, don't do it alone. Reach out to someone and share what you're going through.
Mm.
Pain, when you share your pain, it's divided. And when you share joy, it's multiplied. And so there might be someone that can spread a little joy into your life and it can multiply that for you. So I would say reach out to someone. It could be it could be a counselor, it could be a friend, it could be a stranger on Instagram that okay, they understand what I'm going through, but don't keep it inside. And I really highly suggest you share that with someone.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
So good. So good. Yeah, that's one thing that I think resonated with me about you when I was listening to you from the stage is like through all of the challenges that you've had through life, being hit numerous times, going through 34 surgeries?
Yeah, but
Something,
who's counting,
yeah. But I mean, think about that, right? Think about that. 30 plus surgeries, like having to overcome, and the joy that comes from you is unbelievable. And I'll tell you, I was looking for a moment to speak to Amberly, but there was always a large group, especially women, around her the entire time there was a break. And I was like, okay, I got to wait for my opportunity, get in here. And finally I was like, oh, there's nobody there. And I bolted right to Amberly. And that's initially how we met. But I could just see the joy from you with all of the things, the difficulties, the challenges. What is it with your book? What was the initial start? What initiated that thought of writing, the inspiration behind the book?
Well, I didn't thank you so much. Well, I didn't realize that I've been talking about joy for a long time. And then one of my friends, his name's John Gordon. You may know him. He's written 30 something best selling books. He's amazing. And we were talking one day and he's like, Amberly, you know what? I'm really good with titles to books. And your next book needs to be called Joy Through the Journey. And so I had that on a sticky note on my computer for like 2 years. And I thought, well, I'll get around to it. I'll get around to it. And then that sticky note just kind of sat there. And I thought, well, I would like to be published with Wiley Publishers. So maybe someday I'll reach out to them and write my next book. And lo and behold, Wiley, I got an email from Wiley and they offered me a book deal. They said, do you have any ideas for a book? And I got on a call with them and I pitched this book idea and they said yes. And then I got off the call and I walked out of my office and I told my husband, I said, honey, I just got a book deal. And he goes, oh no, when are you going to have time for that? like not the reaction that I had imagined, but I was like, it was important to me. And so I made the time to write it because it is so important. And actually, yesterday, my paperback just came out. So we went out to dinner and kind of celebrated that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was
Such accomplishment.
Amazing.
it was a journey to write it. And I will be honest, when I started writing it, I realized, I'd always been a pretty joyous person. And I realized, wow, I really kind of let joy slip away. And how am I going to write a book about joy if I'm not filled with joy myself? And so I really took a pause, and there's power in the pause. And I really started to think, like, I've let a lot of my non-negotiables go. For instance, like, I think it's important to ask yourself, we all have joy within us, but what sparks that joy? And
Yeah.
for me, it's a daily practice. And my non-negotiables, even though we're starting this early, I still woke up and got on my knees and prayed. I still did my morning reading out of about 3 of my daily devotionals. I did my gratitude practice and reached out. I have a group of ladies. We call ourselves the God Squad. I've already put you guys on my gratitude. I've already sent that to my sober sisters. I've already had time smooching on my pup. Like, I haven't had a chance to move my body yet, but I will right after this move my body because it moves my mood. And listening to music, you know what? My daughter was with me at an event that I was speaking at, and the host of the event took us all out to dinner. And we're at dinner, and I'm sitting at a table, and there's all these billionaires, right? And me, and then there's me and my daughter, and we're sitting there, and the guy goes, "Ruby, what is one thing your mom does that really embarrasses you?" And without hesitation, she goes, "She dances everywhere we go, whether it's in line at Target or the market or at home in the kitchen. She just dances, and it's so embarrassing." But dancing brings me joy, and I don't care if I'm at the gym working out and there's some good music that comes on. I'm gonna be dancing around a little bit. So I think it's important to ask yourself whether, like, I love feeling the sunshine on my face, being out in nature. What is it that brings you joy? And do more of those things. And I know, I had somebody say, like, well, you're talking, because I talk a lot about joy spotting and really searching for the things that bring you joy. And a friend of mine was like, well, that's searching outside yourself. It doesn't joy come from within yourself? And I'm like, yeah, but I think it's important to do things that light up that joy within you, being around the people that bring you joy, like being here with y'all today. And so, yes, I think joy comes from within, but I do something that I call joy spotting, and actively going out there and changing your environment if you're in an environment that feels dark or heavy or frustrating. And that could be sitting at your desk looking at spreadsheets, or being on Zoom marathons, whatever that is. Get into an environment that lights you up. And that's one of the things I love about doing what I do, is getting around my circle, my inner circle, and these women that I love. Being able to help them is so fulfilling. Going to events and speaking, my favorite thing about going to events and speaking is getting to meet amazing people, Russell, like getting to meet you at Jared's event.
Thank you.
That's what lights me up and brings me joy. And so when I wrote the book, Joy Through the Journey, I share some pretty vulnerable things. It was really scary, actually, to publish, because I share the raw and real things that happened that tried to steal my joy, and what I did to spark that joy again. And so it was a little scary writing and publishing the book, because I share things that I didn't share in my first book, True Grit and Grace. But I've had people reach out and say, thank you for sharing that you were going through that moment of darkness, or you were going through a health scare, or you were going through a moment of self-doubt or sadness, and what you did to get through it. And so whether you're stuck in an airport like I just was coming back from an event and I could have easily gone into, there was a lot of people really upset and acting in ways I was like, ooh, okay, I need to do a little self-check here and think about what can I do instead of what can't I do. And
Mm.
so when you're in a moment of feeling trapped, focus on, well, what are your options? What can you still do? What are you in control of? And there's a prayer that helps me. And whether you are a believer or not, this prayer helps me. I have it even printed on my desk, the serenity prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Because, man, that helps me. Like, what can I control? Well, I can't control that I have a broken toe right now and I'm gonna, but I can control, okay, I ordered a special shoe. I can't put my shoes on right now. I ordered a shoe on Amazon yesterday. I've got crutches that I can use. That's what I can control. So I can
Yeah.
still do this event tomorrow night that I'm honored to be, awarded at. And so I think that puts things in perspective. And gratitude is the quickest and easiest way to put yourself in a position where you're focusing on the good and what you can control.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure.
Love it.
I feel like that prayer allows you to put things in perspective here. Everybody, very powerful. Amberly, before your accident, you were a dancer, you were a physical trainer into fitness, and maybe strength meant something to you at that point than it means today. What would you say? Maybe you were based on more physicality and performance back then. What would you define strength as today?
I think that strength is getting back up. Because I've been knocked down over and over and over and going through 34 surgeries. There were times when I would have a surgery and a day of recovery and then another surgery. And there were times when I would have 6 months of recovery and I would just be preparing for the next surgery. And I was preparing like I was going to battle. I was going to battle for my life. I never knew, was I going to wake up out of surgery? There were a lot of unknowns, but I really think of strength as, and I used to do Krav Maga and Muay Thai kickboxing, and I trained guys who were in the fitness competitions. I held mitts for boxers and taught them how to box. And so strength was a lot different back then. Strength now is really the decision to get back up. And, I think that resilience is what gets you back up, but joy is what keeps you going. It's the spark that keeps you going. So I think that really strength to me now is not, what you necessarily look like, but it's a decision to get up again, to try one more time, to no matter what, keep going because you have that purpose within you. I think that, that endurance is not necessarily enduring hard things all the time. It's when your passion and your perseverance come into play. And, I had somebody on my team last year. I was actually had another surgery last year. And when I was under anesthesia, apparently this person on my team didn't know me very well. She messaged a lady. I was going to Kauai to lead this retreat with another person. And she sent, called this other person and said, hey, just so you know, Amberly's not going to be able to do the retreat. I've talked it over with her husband and she's just not going to be able to do it. And my friend, who's one of my best friends, said, well, what does Amberly have to say about this? And I was under anesthesia at the time. I was having surgery. She goes, oh, well, I've talked it over with her husband. And she goes, well, no, I don't think you know Amberly very well. Amberly always gets back up. And she is unstoppable. And I've known her a lot longer before you, and I'm going to know her a lot longer after you. And I was like, thank you. I did not know at the time that was even going on, I made the trip to Kauai. It was amazing. I was upright. I hiked up a mountain. I snorkeled against waves crashing into me, and I fired that person on my team. And so I think it's really important for you to look at the people that are on your team, on your inner circle. And unfortunately, sometimes those people come in and whether it's your best interest they think you have, but you really need to have people on your team and in your inner circle that you trust, that that know you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
I think about, just listening to, all of the amazing things that you've said today. I think about scars. I think about internal scars, and I think about external scars. And people want to hide those scars, right? And they don't want to talk about those scars. They don't want people to see their scars, you know? And I'm going to talk just in relationship to you. Yours is an external scar, and with 34 surgeries and everything. And I'll tell you this, for those that have never seen Amberly in pictures or in person, she doesn't hide. And it is like there's nothing to be ashamed of. This is my story, and I'm going to tell my story and what I've overcome.
Mhm.
What can you say to those who might have an external or internal scar, who may feel ashamed or feel down or feel depressed or discouraged over those scars that they have, and don't want to open up and to share their story about it?
Oh, well, thank you. And sorry, I'm fidgeting around. I'm propping my leg up here on the desk.
Keep your husband away from you.
That's what it's like. Well, no, it's like I'm just propping my leg up over here. I get it with the internal scars as well. I think we've all been through something. And I definitely had the internal scars that I hid from, that I ran from. I didn't realize. I thought I'd done a lot of work to heal those things. And what I'm talking about, I can openly share now. I write about it in actually both of my books. Is I was sexually abused as a child. My mother and dad got divorced when I was 7 or like 8, and my mother quickly remarried, and my stepdad is the one who sexually abused me, and that went on for some years before I fought him off, and he never physically touched me again, but the emotional and psychological, which it's still actually, as much work as I've done in therapy and talk about it openly, I still had a bad dream. Actually, the other night, I had a bad dream that he was in, and I woke up thinking it was just a dream. He's passed away. He actually died of testicular cancer, of all things, believe it or not.
Wow.
I was a bitch. Did I say that? Oh, I can't believe I said that. I guess I feel like it's just me and you sitting down. Um, but I ran from that, and it didn't hit me until how much I ran and hid from that until I was stuck in a hospital bed after my motorcycle accident, and I couldn't run. Like, running was my go-to, whether I was sad, depressed, anxious, feeling shame, whatever it was, I ran. I mean, I set a record in Texas for running the fastest mile. My track coach wanted me to go to the Olympics. I chose dance over running, but as a dancer, as an athlete sponsored by Nike, as a fitness trainer, I ran. I ran all over town. And then I'm stuck in this hospital bed. I had no way to process all these feelings, and I could not run from it anymore. And I stuffed it down and stuffed it down. And I started to stuff it down actually and try to self medicate with alcohol. And I knew that wasn't healthy. I knew it wasn't a good thing. I had a lot of addiction in my family, and I never thought that I would be addicted to alcohol. But I realized addiction doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care how young, old, where you came from, rich, poor, who you are. Addiction does not discriminate. And by the grace of God, I got sober almost 10 years ago. And that's what changed my life. It's when I actually was able to start to heal those inner scars and start to be an acceptance for the way I looked on the outside, for all the scars that you can visibly see. I didn't want people to see those. I hid those. I remember there was one summer day, it was like over 100 degrees in California, and I was going out in shorts and boots that came all the way up to my knee. And my friend was like, "It is so hot outside. You're wearing those big boots. Aren't you going to burn up in those?" And I said, "Yes, but I will never show the scars on my leg." And it took a lot of work to finally start to heal the inner scars and work on the acceptance of the outer scars. And I think what really changed that for me was getting sober and doing the inner work and um, looking at all my defects. But then my doctor is who really helped me with the outer scars. So I had gone in about a year after my accident, and it was giving me so much pain. I could not, nothing was working. And I was like, well, I have an idea. Let's just cut my leg off. So I went into Dr. Wiss and I said, "Hey, Dr. Wiss, thank you so much for all that you've done to save my leg, but I need to move on with my life. Let's just amputate because this leg is all mangled. It's all scarred. It gives me so much pain." And he did something that changed my life. He said, "Well, we can't do that. You've been diagnosed with CRPS, and it may cause more pain. It could spread if you amputate your leg." And then he put my leg in his lap, and he looked at it like it was a masterpiece. Like, look at what he saved. Like this, there was a 1% chance, and he did it. He saved it. And something shifted in me. And I thought, if he can look at my leg that way, maybe I can learn to look at it that way too. And it wasn't easy, but little by little, I started to look at my leg differently as like, wow, look at how the human body can heal. Look at all these scars or victories I have won. And they started to represent, instead of shame and disgust, something as like, look at how strong I am, that I got through those surgeries, that I can walk again, that I have my leg. And so I know it's not easy when you have those inner scars or the outer scars. And look, I remember it was just a couple of years ago. I was wrestling with my daughter, who is really strong now. She's 5'10". She's the same height as me. And we were goofing around wrestling, and she won. And the coffee table got the best of me. And I did a face plant right into the coffee table and come up, and she goes, "Oh, Mom, there's blood everywhere." And I'm like, oh gosh. I said, "Get the super glue." Like, I split my head open. I said, "Get the super glue." And my husband comes running over, and he's like, "Super glue? No, we've got to take you to the emergency room. Your head is split open." And it was my eyebrow. And I get to the emergency room. My daughter's like, "Oh, Mom, this isn't good. You know, you're not going to have eyelashes where that scar is going to be." And the ER goes, "Well, we got to stitch you up." And I'm like, he goes, "We got to numb you first." I'm like, "Can you just stitch me up so I can get out of here? Just stitch it up." Now he goes, "We really need to numb you first." He probably thought I was crazy, but he didn't realize I'd been through so many surgeries. I'm like, let's just get it over with. So anyway, he ended up numbing me. 9 stitches later, 2 black eyes, had to glue the skin on my nose was open, had to glue that back on my nose. I looked like a mess. And I have to admit, I was like, well, great. I've dealt with the scars on my leg. Now I'm going to have a scar on my face. And I was having a little bit of a pity party. And you know what? I still showed up. I showed up live for 2 interviews that were big. I had Jamie Kern Lima, who, I don't know if you know who she is. She's a New York Times bestselling author. Had her on my show. She shows up and looks at me. I tried to cover up the black eyes and the 9 stitches. She's the founder of It Cosmetics, known for covering up blemishes. And wouldn't you know, I have her on my show. I was not going to cancel this interview, and I did the interview with two black eyes, and I showed up anyway. And so my point of sharing that story is just keep showing up. It may not look the way you imagined it, but you are resilient and you have a purpose, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I'm going to be on crutches to get this award tomorrow. What matters is that I get up and I'm getting the award. Like I even did that. I even said that in my gratitude, that it's not the way that I imagined going across the stage on crutches. But what is important is that, wow, this is a big deal that I get this, and I'm focusing on the good. And when you focus on the good just keeps getting better.
Well said.
Amazing. Very well said.
Yeah.
Amberly, we have this quote or statement that we like to close every single show out with, and we like to ask our guests at the end of the show kind of what it means to them. And that quote is that wellness is not about perfection, it's about progress. What would you say that quote means to you?
Well, one of my mottos is progress over perfection. I also say a lot and remind myself easy does it, and one step at a time, one day at a time. And even yesterday, like I said, I don't usually do the bike for cardio. I like to do the step mill because that really makes me sweat more. I can't run the way that I used to. And believe me, I've tried every kind of way to run, but I focus on what I can do and let go of the rest. And so I think that, progress over perfection, even if you're focusing on getting 1% better every day, you're still moving in the right direction. And so I encourage you to take a good, hard look at your life and get radically honest with yourself. When you do that, you can take the right action steps to move forward. And when I think of progress over perfection, I'm big on sticky notes and doing one thing 1% every day. I got sticky notes all over my desk. Like these are the things I need to do. They may seem small, some of them, but these small things, when I get to cross them off my list, end up being big progress and creating big movement in my life and business. And so I think it's good to have that motto.
Love that.
That's so good.
Love that.
I think when I think back of everything you said, for people that were listening today and people that are going to listen in the future on this podcast, is that, you start your day, you're reading 3 daily devotionals. You start with gratitude. You start with getting on your knees and praying. You start with the joy that is in the journey, joy that no matter what, you look at the good, you look at the positive, you move your body. These are all things that people really need to take notice of for themselves, because you said so many valuable things today. Don't hide your scars. Show it. Tell it. And I know that it's a challenge for people to overcome those scars, whether it's internal or external. But, there was just so many valuable things that you said today that just resonated with me, that are so important. And I hope those that were listening today really found some positive out of what you said today, Amberly, because it's beautiful, and your story and your life, who you are as a person. And I'm just at the beginning of getting to know you, but I'm so grateful that I have you in my life.
Well, thank you. I'm so grateful for you. And I think everybody does things differently. How I start my day might be. People might be going, well, I don't want to start my day like that. I have a night like that. So whatever works for you, but I think it's important to ask yourself, what does work for you? And then stick to it. And some people might be listening going, well, that's a heck of a lot of work. But you know what? I tried it the other way, and doing these things, that's what helps me to stay healthy and resilient and have joy in my life. And it's a heck of a lot better than a life of misery, because I've had the life of misery. And I think that, by really doing things that help you start your day, create a day with progress over perfection, like you just said, Dan.
So good. So good.
Love that.
We're doing these impact events. We got 4 going on this year on health and wellness. when you and I met, we talked about coming to Dallas in 27. And so Amberly and Dana Grant and I have been in discussion over putting something together in Dallas in 27. So I'm excited to see what comes of this and being with you on the stage and just being so grateful to be able to share the stage with you. So I look forward to what is to come. And thank you.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
You can just keep me posted on what you're doing with your event. I don't know if I'll be in Dallas, but I can sure fly here.
Absolutely. Where can people find you, Amberly?
At amberlylago.com, you can see all the behind the scenes shenanigans at Amberly Lago Motivation, things my pup Nugget does, and my daughter and my husband, who doesn't like to be on social media, but sometimes I catch him on there on my story. But yeah, you can find out about all my events. I have an event coming up here in April in Irving, Texas, April 30th. It's called the Unstoppable Success Summit, and I'm super excited. We're doing things totally different. It's at a theater, and I have some surprises. I haven't even shared yet. But it's going to be like a whole show performance like I've never done before. So I've been in behind the scenes planning that, and it's so much fun.
Good.
Awesome. Amberly Lago, thank you so much for joining us this morning, guys. Powerful episode. Thank you so much again for being here. Please check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Check out Amberly at her Instagram. We'll see everybody next week. Thank you again for listening.
Thank you, Amberly.
Thank you.